Hello and welcome to another exciting episode of the Africa EV Show, where we spotlight innovations in the electric vehicle sector, spanning all modes of transport from two wheelers, three wheelers, four wheelers, and even heavy machinery. This week, we focus on three African countries where e-mobility in public transport is no longer a dream, but a dawning reality. Now, imagine 100 electric buses rolling through the streets of Addis Ababa, local engineers building EV vans in Gaborone in Botswana, and Kenyan matatus finally going electric on intercity routes. Today, we are looking at how China's EV technology is fueling a quiet revolution in public transport in these three African countries. These are not just test programs. From Ethiopia to Botswana to Kenya, EVs are being assembled locally, deployed, financed, and in many cases, powered by Chinese tech, parts, and manufacturers. And therefore, stick around because this could be the blueprint for how Africa's cities move in the next decade. Let's start with Ethiopia. On April 1st of this year, Golden Dragon, a Chinese bus manufacturer, delivered 100 new electric buses to Addis Ababa in partnership with Bilaine Kindie Group, or the BKG. That's a major leap for this country. And this isn't the first step, it's the fourth. Since 2014, they have deployed buses, developed intercity coaches, and now they have localized knockdown kit assembly happening in a modern factory built in 2023. Already, there are 900 Golden Dragon new energy buses in Ethiopia. Golden Dragon and its local partner, Belaine Kindie, they have trained local engineers and transferred knowledge. Now, Chinese tech components, CATL batteries, Kinglong new energy parts are part of the supply chain. Ethiopia has paired that with policy incentives, tax breaks, investment in charging infrastructure, and commitments to reduce the country's dependence on petrol and diesel fuel from 78% to under 50% by 2030. In just under 4 years, that is the target. But it hasn't been easy. They had to deal with changing regulations, supply chain disruptions, and ensuring that the buses survive Ethiopia's altitude, road conditions, and climate. Yet, the success stories are mounting and they show what local assembly added or plus Chinese technology plus policy support can achieve. The price of the EVs in Ethiopia, of course, is affected by the fact that most of them are imported. But then when we start talking about local assembly, we know that prices will go down.
100%.
And there are manufacturing partnerships which are driving economic growth in Ethiopia. And one of the most notable company is Beline Kindie. I hope I'm saying that
Yeah,
right.
I'm
Which
equally clueless in that as you, don't worry. It's perfect. Yeah, Belaina Kindi. Yeah.
yeah, they recently launched 100 electric buses in Addis Ababa. What are the active or planned partnership between Ethiopia and Chinese companies for local EV companies of production and assembly are there? And what are the challenges and the opportunities that are existing in this space as we speak?
Okay, so yes, as you said, Belaina Kindi is one of the biggest players in the electric vehicle like assembly scene. So first I'm gonna start with like who else is in this field as well. So Tamrin Motors also did start like a similar partnership with Jack Motors, like the Jack cars. And so in the beginning, like last year, I think it was like sometime around last year, they just started like importing cars from China directly. And then right now they are going, yes, like, so they have like 5 different models in there, starting from like very small compact cars to like bigger SUV cars and even trucks, I believe. But now they're also like going to get into assembling these vehicles, and they're like even Marathon Motors is thinking the same thing. Like Marathon Motors was who's like they the ones that started like the whole like car assembling thing
This whole
years
shift,
ago. Yeah, yeah,
yeah.
yeah. Like even like the whole like encouraging, the basically starting like the whole electric vehicle like initiative here. But they had to cut operations because of lack of foreign currency. But then now also there are words that they will be coming back to the game as well, and this time with I'm not sure though what the company was. It was either Hyundai, which is not Chinese, or like it was with a Chinese company. I'm not sure of that. But yeah, so the main challenge is availability of foreign currency, because at the end of the day, labor here is like labor is low cost. Um, like all that has to happen is like train the workers. I mean, train like employee like the labor here to like produce. I mean, assemble the cars, or like even semi-assembled cars come here. But then at the end of the day, like in order to scale up, it's definitely like a venture that requires like a lot of capital, and it has to be foreign currency because yeah, so because like everything's coming from China. But I'm definitely keeping an eye on the on this venture, because like it's very interesting and it's growing so fast. For example, like when we published the article, Belaina Kindi did not have like these 100 buses just released into the streets, but they do now. And every time, even Tamrin Motors, it was like as I was like working on like my research for this article, that I found out that they are going to also get into assembling cars here. So definitely the whole goal of all that is to make these electric vehicles even cheaper, even more accessible to the public, make spare parts available. And then naturally also, if like assembling is started here, like so will like training like electricians, to like basically fix the cars and stuff, because that's also like a problem we'll be discussing in a bit. But yeah, so the benefits that will come from it is a lot, but then again, like there are definitely challenges when like in the initiation of these kind of projects.
We now head south to Botswana, where local assembly is happening with Chinese brands. In Botswana, a new chapter opened on October 7th, 2024, in the capital Gaborone after the unveiling of its batch of locally assembled electric vehicles. Partnerships with two Chinese companies, that is Skywell and CHTC Kinwin, are behind this. Now, Skywell is doing SUVs, while CHTC Kinwin is helping assemble electric buses. And here's what's powerful. Botswana Institute for Technology Research and Innovation, BITRI, is leading the technical effort. Local engineers are assembling, testing, learning. The Chinese brands are bringing in the expertise, shippable component kits, but the value is in developing local skills and tapping into government support. President Mokwetsi Masisi praised the move as crucial, not just for environment, but for economic development. Challenges: add the cost of imports, ensuring quality standards, creating charging infrastructure, and scaling it up to make it economically viable. But Botswana's move makes clear China's EV technology is enabling local manufacturing, not just importation.
Look, I'll say, if I were to pick from certainly a bank perspective, one, for example, that will make a huge difference. I would say it is diversify the funding sources, getting multiple players coming into the market. Look, I can say it's because I sit in a commercial bank, and I have for effectively the last 20 years. Is in Africa, there is an over reliance on traditional banks to lend every cycle of our industrial growth. Uh, that is not going to get us the best outcomes overall. And so, knowing that the EV sector is new, which means there will be new players, there will be the usual challenges that um, what we call early stage companies would face. We need to broaden the scope. Now, yes, um, financial banks in the continent need to understand the fact that Africa is also growing. And so we will be new in a lot of things. And so we are also thinking, and I gave you some examples of things we are doing to impact some of these early stage companies, whether it's direct or indirect. But we also need to continue to make sure we are creating more of that access for support, but there needs to be more financial variety on the table, coming from different sources with different appetite levels, with different sizes around what is able to be provided, to make sure that all the businesses that are looking to grow in this sector have the variety they need, and not it's like a one destination, and if that destination fails, then all else is lost.
And now we head to East Africa. In Kenya, Basigo, an EV pioneer in non-Arab Africa, is pushing the envelope. Beyond city buses, they've launched Kenya's first intercity electric matatu pilot. Routes from Nairobi to major towns outside of Nairobi, which are probably like 300 to 400 kilometers. That is Nairobi to Nyeri, Nairobi to Nakuru, and Nakuru to Nairobi, and then Thika to Nairobi, which is about 100 kilometers, are now being served by electric vans, which have a sitting capacity of 16 to 19 passengers. And now, with 300 kilometers of range and fast charging, which is taking about 1.5 hours, set up in Nyahururu and Thika. For Basigo, this is not just ambition. This is a fulfillment of a dream that has been nurtured over the past 5 or so years. Now, the ambition doesn't stop there. Basigo plans to locally assemble these vans, which is going to create jobs, building maintenance capacity, and reducing costs. And what's more, they use a pay-as-you-drive lease model to lower upfront costs for operators. Basigo is aiming for over 1,000 electric vans deployed across Kenya in a few years. And this company and the Chinese tech and the partnerships are part of the equation. Supplier components, battery systems, manufacturing know-how. Also, public policy supports this through import duty concessions, infrastructure, installation, and aligning with climate goals that Kenya has. Now, across these 3 countries, there are some commonalities that are weaving through their assembling sector. Pulling threads across these 3 countries, here are the issues or the things that stand out when it comes to locally assembling electric vehicles. Now, there is the issue of technology transfer and local assembly. And China isn't just exporting fully built buses. In all these 3 cases, there are efforts, which is the knockdown kits, local assembly plants, local tech, training, maintenance, and other capabilities. Now, policy incentives matter. Tax breaks, subsidies, import duty reductions, because they all favor the locally made or assembled vehicles. And then green transport plans. All of these are conditions for success. There is also financing and cost barriers, and we find that EV buses or other vehicles are expensive, and the upfront cost because of batteries, charging infrastructure, serving networks, all require capital. Leasing or public-private partnerships are helping in Kenya. In Ethiopia, local manufacturing slows costs and creates returns.
And I think the promise of e-mobility overall across the continent is significant. And I think you highlighted it very well. It is certainly a welcome direction that Africa should take full advantage of, given all its benefits. And I think we stand to be a player in that, also with our mineral resources, etc. But to be able to grow it, you need the enabling environment. And I think these are some of the challenges that we need to work our way through. The economic barriers are clear. Again, you have highlighted them, the infrastructure space, etc. But when it comes to financing, there is an additional aspect of the challenge, which is also unique, which is typically most projects like this have high capital expenditure. Also, financing, generally speaking, around the world, especially in an elevated interest rate environment, but on our continent, we also know that there is a premium, and that comes as well, which leads to high cost of capital. There is a currency volatility issue in most of our markets, which creates additional risk for businesses that are trying to take on finance, and then we can go on and on. So if you just even focus on the financing side of things, the challenges continue. Now, how can we work together, and potentially what are some of the changes that can lead to this? I think from a finance perspective, which is certainly the side of the business we come from, some of the changes that we need to see on the continent would start from, first and foremost, diversifying the funding sources. I mean, I think even in some of the comments we've all made until now, it's clear that most of the time, businesses on the continent would approach what we call traditional commercial banks for financing. That's what is more prevalent in our countries and considered the most easily accessible. But if you look in a more developed financial system, there is more variety because financing tends to go to different times or where you are in the life cycle of the business.
Infrastructure and reliability challenges. These come roads, climate, maintenance, charging infrastructure again, spare parts. These strain new electric fleet operations. And Chinese brands usually include strong service support, like we have seen, and this helps because it is easier to roll out these plans. Then there is public and environmental impact emission savings. Ethiopia's 150 light buses improved air quality around Addis Ababa. It also reduced fuel import costs. And these are measurable gains that help drive public and political support. And now, looking into the future, what are we seeing? As we wind up this episode, here is what to look forward to. By 2030, which again is less than 5 years from now, you can expect African EV bus assembly to scale up more quickly. China will remain a major technology and parts provider. Local firms will increasingly manufacture component kits, battery systems, and finally, full buses and vans. And in the short term, here's what you can look for. There's going to be a push for stronger local manufacturing policies, and this includes tax incentives and other standards, including quality control. And then there will be investment in charging infrastructure where public and private partnerships will thrive. There will also be support for training of technicians and engineers in Kenya. We have seen that this is happening because there have been a number of trainings that are being offered by players and stakeholders in the electric vehicle space. And then something else that we are going to look for, or that we need to be noticing in this short term, is that we are going to see stakeholders looking for financing models. These include leasing and also subsidizing the products that they are selling or producing. It's also going to encourage transparency and partnerships, and these will kind of spur local job creation and environmental compliance. Now, if you like stories on African countries or from African countries on the EV tech innovations, you can hit the subscribe button below. Share this video, particularly with someone in transport, policy, or green tech, and drop a comment. Which city will be the next major EV bus assembly hub? Because these things are happening even when we least expect them to be happening. Thanks for watching. My name is Njenga Hakina, and we'll see you in the next episode of the Africa EV Show.